Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and we presented and brought to you by FanDuel. Appreciate you being here and listening in to the performance tiers from week 7 of the Big Ten. Let's go ahead and get into this, but before we do, please do like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening on podcast, 5-star rating and review really helps out the channel and, fights against that dirty SEC bias that's out there that we all hate so much, right? So help us out. 5-star rating, review, like, subscribe, hype button as well. Okay, let's get into this. The performance tiers for the Big Ten in week 7. Let's start with USC and Michigan. USC wins this one 31-13. USC has nearly 500 total yards on the day, and one of the reasons why I have USC so high, yes, they went against Michigan when Michigan was on the road and Michigan was missing Justice Haynes, but USC was also missing Waymon Jordan in this game, right? Jada Mayava, he did throw one interception, but 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. They scored 31 points in this game. A lot of people didn't think they'd get past 24, didn't think they'd get past 17 points, but USC's offense is elite. USC does a great job, and in this one, not only was their offense elite because you had King Miller go for 18 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Brian Jackson had 5 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown late in that game as well. You also had the defense look phenomenal in this game for USC. Michigan was not able to do on the ground what they've normally done. Their cornerbacks outmatched the Michigan wide receivers. This was a key matchup for me in the game, is who would look better, the cornerbacks for USC or the wide receivers for Michigan. Well, the USC cornerbacks won that battle. Andrew Marsh did have 8 catches for 138 yards. One of those was a 69-yard reception, though, so a lot of those yards on one pass play. That doesn't mean that you take it away or anything like that, but it just means that it's not like he was getting consistently beat, 15, 20 yards every single play. And then Donovan McCulley, they did a good job of handling him. 3 catches, 39 yards, and a touchdown. I actually felt like, the wide receivers did beat USC's corners a couple times in this game. It was actually Bryce Underwood who struggled more. He just has very little ability to put touch on the ball, at least right now. Obviously, he's a very talented quarterback with a very talented arm, and he might get there at some point. But I'm very concerned about Bryce Underwood at Michigan. I do not think that Michigan is doing very well developing him, and I don't think that you're seeing very good mechanics from him, number one. And personally, I just don't think Michigan does a very good job of developing their QBs. JJ McCarthy, obviously the exception there, but that was when Jim Harbaugh was there, and Jim Harbaugh obviously has done a really good job with QBs. Outside of him, I don't. Right now, we'll see if things change, but I don't trust this coaching staff in Michigan to develop a quarterback definitely like I do Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley's great. So I have questionable for Michigan just because they didn't have Justice Haynes in this game. It's not concerning because you were on the road at USC, right? But still, with what USC did in this game, it was elite for them. 224 yards, sack adjusted rushing yards. They did turn the ball over twice, but Michigan turned the ball over twice as well. And USC had 3 sacks in this game, 5 tackles for loss. Michigan had 0 sacks in this one. USC came out throwing the ball quick, little out route screens, and Michigan just had no answer for it. If Michigan is not getting to the quarterback, it looks like they really just don't have an answer. We'll see if this kind of trend continues against Michigan, but this is definitely a weakness that Lincoln Riley unlocked in this game, and it's something that I think is something we'll need to track moving forward. So excellent game here from USC, pulling ahead, scoring 17 points in the second half to Michigan's only 6 points, and just an excellent game from USC. Elite stuff. All right, let's move on to the next one is Iowa and Wisconsin. Honestly, this one won't take that long. Iowa's in the elite category, 37-0. They win this game. Wisconsin is in the awful category, and if there was anything lower I could give them, I would. I hesitate even putting them on this list and just put in like a incomplete for Wisconsin, because Wisconsin didn't even show up for the game. Wisconsin did not look like they cared, did not look like they tried. I think Hunter Simmons cared, but this team did not look like they really gave all that many cares about this game. And Iowa did care a lot about this game and wanted to beat their rival and beat their rival down hard in this one. So Iowa, even though Wisconsin's not like an elite like opponent or anything. This was still an elite performance by Iowa. Wisconsin turned the ball over 3 times in this game, only barely 200 over 200 yards on the day. Iowa had 319 yards, and with the turnovers and everything else, it was just easy work for them. Mark Gronowski was 17 of 24, 107 yards. He did have an interception on the day, but the rushing from Iowa was just it was just elite in this game. 15 carries for 96 yards and a touchdown for Kamari Moulton. Williams had 7 carries for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then Gronowski had 4 carries for 9 yards and a touchdown himself, scoring all of their touchdowns on the ground, at least on offense, and had a good game. Vanderzee was back in this game. He was the leading receiver with 3 catches for 29 yards. Good to see him get back in this one, but definitely, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say here. Wisconsin, they suck. I don't know what else to say about it. Iowa, right now, they're humming. They're definitely going to be humming against teams like Wisconsin. We'll see what they look like moving forward. But at least for this game, this was an elite game, an elite, stoppage of Wisconsin for Iowa. And I don't think there's really anything you can argue there. You can argue like opponent, how good their opponent is, but you can't argue from anything that you really saw here against Iowa. Even when they made mistakes, they were able to cover them up because Wisconsin was just that awful. Next up, we have UCLA, who looked elite in this one as they won 38-13. UCLA's Nico Iamaleava wasn't even the leading rusher this time. They did get some running from the rest of their crew, but started with Nico. He's 16 of 24, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns, passes in this game. He had 5 carries for 9 yards, but Jalen Berger was the leading rusher, 13 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Then Javion Thomas had 12 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown there close at the goal line in this game. UCLA had over 400 total yards on the day, 238 yards on the ground, and UCLA has not done a great job of running on the ground. Last game, they had a lot of yards on the ground, but a lot of that was Nico Iamaleava and his scrambling. This game, they just ran the ball. They did a fantastic job of it. They put their defensive tackle in there for a little bit at a point in the game to kind of be a lead blocker, and that worked effectively for them. The announcers loved talking about that, which is cool. I mean, you don't always see stuff like that. But UCLA had 8 penalties in this one, and they still blew Michigan State out. Michigan State only had 2 penalties, but there was nothing they could do in this game. Aiden Childs, I believe he went out because he was hurt. I had this one on mute, so I didn't hear everything that was going on. I believe he went out when he got hurt, and then Milovicic, he came in, did not look nearly as good as he looked last game. The pressure was on him. He had some miss errant throws and just was not a great one. And Michigan State had some drops in this game. Jack Velling had a drop, and Masuanas, I believe is how you pronounce it. He had a drop as well. So yeah, just not a great day for Michigan State. Not a great game, and Michigan State fans are getting kind of restless right now. I gave them the awful rating as well as Wisconsin. I mean, there's just not really anything else you can say about it, right? UCLA did what they were supposed to do. They came in, they ran the ball well, they played good defense, and Michigan State didn't. Michigan State, they converted their third downs, but their third downs they didn't convert. They turned it over on downs. I mean, Michigan State in this game, they score very first drive of the game. They go 10 plays, 9 yards, and then they turn it over on downs, 4 plays, 9 yards, turn it over on downs, punt, fumble, punt, downs, touchdown, and then another turnover on downs. So I mean, UCLA, they just kept the ball. They kept the ball away from Michigan State, and this one, and Michigan State just didn't have any answers. They did not have a good offense in this game. The offensive line continues to struggle. They only allowed 1 sack in this game, but still, the offensive line is not good. And for all those people that were saying start Milovicic over Aiden Childs, I think you got your answer today. You don't have enough weapons around Aiden Childs right now, and that's kind of what we talked about before. It's just kind of sad. Mekhi Frazier did have 12 carries for 58 yards, but no touchdowns. And Aiden Childs, he ran the ball 6 times for 9 yards and had a touchdown. That's what Aiden Childs gives you that Milovicic can't. He was 8 of 17 for 66 yards. Milovicic was 8 of 18 for 100 yards and a touchdown pass. That's why I have those 2 teams in those spots. All right, let's talk Indiana Hoosiers, who looked elite in taking down Oregon, a game where people weren't even giving Oregon a chance. They win 30-20 on the road in Autzen Stadium. Fernando Mendoza was 20 of 31, 215 yards and a touchdown pass. He had an interception, but boy, did he look ice in his veins when he came back from that. He was dealing. Sometimes you see these quarterbacks throw an interception and they just kind of come back, and it's what you saw from Dante Moore in this game. He came back kind of dejected, not really himself. That was not the case with Fernando Mendoza. He was confident. He was ready the entire game. It was a fantastic performance from Fernando Mendoza. Also, Roman Himby in this one, 19 carries, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kalen Black ran the ball well in this one too. Fernando Mendoza scrambled around, 6 carries for 31 yards, and Oregon only had 1 sack in this game. Meanwhile, Indiana, 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. It was a dominant performance in especially the second half by Indiana's defense, as Oregon only scored 1 touchdown all game. They had a field goal and they had an interception return for a touchdown, that Fernando Mendoza pick. But boy, not a great day for Oregon, and that's why I have Oregon in the questionable category, or in the concerning category in this one, because I think if you're an Oregon fan, like you still think, okay, we are one of the top teams in college football. You saw Ole Miss struggle, you saw Oklahoma lose to Texas, you saw Texas A&M. I believe they beat Florida, but they struggled against Florida from what I watched in that game a little bit today. This is still an Oregon team who should still be in the top 10 after this. There's no question. Excuse me. There's no question about that. They might even still be in the top 5 after this. I don't know if you move Texas A&M up. I guess it depends on what your thoughts are on like the depth stuff of the Big Ten, but I just think Indiana's a top 2 team in the nation, either number 1 or number 2. I mean, I have them number 2 in my power rankings, but like I said, they're 1A and 1B for me. I mean, it's Ohio State and Indiana right there at the top. They're 1A, they're 1B. I think both of them have proven themselves to be the best team in the nation in different ways. And so it's just kind of whatever you want to go with. You want to go with some of the dominance on the field that Indiana has had, but maybe not in every single game. Or do you want to go with the resume piece that Indiana has had? It's interesting, right? It's what you need to kind of consider when you do it, and we'll see what happens there. But in this one, Oregon's Dante Moore, he was 21 of 34, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jordan Davison was actually really good in this game. 8 carries, 59 yards. Noah Whittington had 5 carries, 27 yards, and then just didn't get as much of the production from your running backs in this game as you normally would. So just kind of an interesting game here. Elijah Surratt was fantastic. He had 8 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. I mean, this was a very physical game in the first half. This was a game where you thought, okay, which team is going to flinch? And the team that flinched and the team that wasn't remaining as physical was Oregon. And that's another concern for this team. You had a very physical offensive line that you thought you could rely on game to game to game. And in this game, they were out physicaled by Indiana. Yeah, they put their shots in on Indiana the first half, but Indiana kept fighting and coming out back against them. And in the second half, Oregon kicked a field goal. They had punt, field goal, punt, interception, end, right? Indiana in the second half, they had punt, and then touchdown, interception, touchdown, field goal. 2 drives after the interception, pick 6, and you come back with a 12-play yard drive for 75 yards, a 9-play drive for 28 yards to get a field goal. Just very impressive stuff from Indiana in this one. They are one of the best, if not the best, team in the nation right now in college football. And for Kirk Cinetti to bring this team, to bring this program from what they were to where they're at now, it's phenomenal and absolutely great stuff. So great stuff by Cignetti, great stuff by the staff, everybody involved. This was a huge performance. This was elite in this. You have an argument now for being the best team in the nation, which is pretty crazy, but it's what it is. We'll do it. We'll do it next. We'll talk about it. Northwestern satisfied because they beat Penn State, who looked awful in this game. Northwestern wins 22-21. Preston Stone was 17 of 26, 163 yards, a touchdown pass. Caleb Kalamalafe, he had 19 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. And Joseph Hyman had 13 carries for 65 yards in this game. they were just able to move the ball. They were the more consistent team moving the ball in this one. And, Griffin Wildy, he had seven receptions for 94 yards. Devontae Ross did have seven receptions for 115 yards in this game. He was one of the few players that it looked like he was, I want to say giving effort, but, didn't look like he quit. I mean, there were a number of players on this Penn State team that looked like they quit today. Drew Aller was not one of them. He unfortunately got hurt and he's out for the season. That is heartbreaking for him, for Penn State fans, for everybody that supported this program. Katron Allen looked like he carried out there, 16 carries, 90 yards, and one touchdown. Drew Aller, he ran for six carries, 25 yards, and a touchdown. But Nicholas Singleton, yes, he had a touchdown, but 7 carries for 20 yards. Like, this is not Nicholas Singleton. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's unhappy. I don't know if he just took his check and he ran. I have no idea what's going on. But this is not Nicholas Singleton. This is not Penn State football that we've come to know from him and from what he's done. He had 2 receptions for 6 yards. Really, outside of Devontae Ross, nobody really did anything. Kyron Hudson was the only one that had over 10 yards. Well, he had exactly 10 reception yards on one catch in this game. Just crazy stuff right now. Penn State's in a terrible, terrible place. But Northwestern, they're 4-2. Their only losses are to Oregon and Tulane. Tulane, they could have possibly been a college football playoff team at one point. Don't think they're going to get there. However, if they win the AAC, maybe. I don't know how that conference is going to turn out, but overall, right now it does not look good for Penn State, and I think that people were sleeping on Northwestern a little bit. And I had them last in my power rankings last week just because I was like, I don't think a win over UL Monroe is going to really do it for me. But you know what? Credit to them. They came out, they ran the ball well in this game. And Preston Stone, he had some deep passes in this one. I mean, big plays in this game. Let me find the big plays notes here. You had 3 passes of 15 yards or more. A 29-yard pass to Griffin Wildy, and then another 16-yard pass, and then one run of 17 yards. I mean, but that was the thing, right? It didn't require all the big plays. Northwestern just consistently moved the ball down the field to be able to go down and score, and that's exactly what they needed to do. Terrible game from Penn State. Very satisfying game for Northwestern fans. Next, we've got Ohio State beating Illinois. Ohio State satisfactory in this one. It was a 34-16 win, so you might think a little bit more elite against a ranked team on the road, but I think Ohio State left some things out there in this one. For Illinois, I think it's questionable. I wouldn't say it's a concern, but it's definitely something you kind of bring question into, right? So let's start with Ohio State. Julian Sain, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. Illinois actually outgained Ohio State overall, 295-272 in this one. A lot of that was because of the turnovers, an early interception by Luke Altmaier, a snap on a punt where the punter had to get down and he accidentally kneeled down, and so Ohio State had a short field there. So I wouldn't say that the yards really tell the entire story here because of the turnovers and the short fields they had, but I do think that running the ball with somebody other than Bo Jackson just does not look like a great scenario right now. CJ Donaldson, credit to him. He had 44 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Bo Jackson has 10 carries for 47 yards in this one. He looked like he may have been hobbling off the field at one point. I don't think I saw him for the rest of the game after that happened, so it's definitely something to monitor. He was a guy that struggled with injuries in high school, and that was kind of always my worry with him being the lead back, is if he would be able to kind of, sustain that for the entire season. But you had really good wide receiver play in this one. Jeremiah Smith, 5 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Carnell Tate, 4 receptions, 41 yards, no touchdown. But Bo Jackson had 2 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown in this one. Yeah, and Illinois had 2 fumbles in this game, right? Another strip sack as well, which kind of contributed to that. And Ohio State, they scored on all 3 of the turnovers: the 2 fumbles, the interception, and I believe on the punter kneel down type of situation. That won't go down as a turnover, but was definitely helpful for Ohio State to be able to have a short field and be able to score. So, like I said, yards don't tell the entire story, but I do think that Ohio State still possesses a run game issue a little bit. They seem to fix their power rushing game in this one. In short yardage situations, they were much better. Their power rushing was 5 for 6 in this game, which is 83%. That's much better. But Illinois did score in the red zone. They got a touchdown in the red zone in this game. So if you're an Ohio State fan, you're priding yourself on the red zone, and Illinois did a great job of going 3 for 3. So that's why I don't have Illinois in the concerning category. I actually have them in the questionable category because it is like there was good stuff in this, but I don't know if this is an Illinois team that is built to be able to win while turning the ball over. They won against USC while turning the ball over, but against a top tier team like Ohio State, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. So satisfied for Ohio State. The play calling was another thing Ohio State fans were not super satisfied with, but overall the game and who your opponent was and everything, you're satisfied with this. It's not elite, but it's also not bad by any means. So good game here by Ohio State. Washington looked very satisfactory in their win 38-19 over Rutgers. Didn't give them the elite because I did feel like the defense could have been a little bit better in this game. I mean, Rutgers did have nearly 500 yards, 493 yards on the day. But overall, I mean, if there weren't so many big plays by Washington's defense, I think I probably could have gave it to them. But overall in this one, they were very good. Damon Williams Jr. He had over 400 passing yards, over 100 rushing yards in this game. I think only like 15 quarterbacks have done that in the history of college football, or like 15 times they've done that. One of those two. So that's insane that he was able to get that done. Jonah Coleman had a bit of a rough day, but he did score a touchdown, 14 carries, 44 yards, and a touchdown. And then Denzel Boston, Desmond Roebuck. I mean, one of the kind of concerns of this offense was how the ball wasn't getting super spread around at the beginning. But now you have Van Bright, the true freshman, 3 catches, 50 yards. Roebuck, 4 catches, leading receiver on the day. And then Denzel Boston, 5 catches, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Decker DeGraff, he had a couple catches in this one, and Amari Evans as well. So you love to see the moving the ball around a little bit more in this situation. That definitely helps this Washington team out. So satisfactory from then, borderline elite. I think if the defense didn't give up so many big plays. But overall, very good game here from Washington. For Rutgers, the second half woes continued, right? They only scored 6 points in the second half. Washington scored 28 points in the second half, and that was really kind of the story for this Rutgers defense. Once again, they hold Washington scoreless in the first quarter. They looked really, really good there in the second and third drive for Washington. Washington misses the field goal on the first drive, kind of gives you some momentum. They come back, they lose yardage, go 3 and out. They get a first down, and then they go 3 and out after that on the next drive. And then after that, it was touchdown, fumble on a long drive where they got all the way down to, I believe, the red zone. Yes, the red zone. And then they come back, field goal, touchdown, 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 touchdown. And that's just kind of how this Washington offense works, right? You give them good field position, you give them the situation, and they're going to go in, they're going to pounce on it, and they're going to dominate. So excellent stuff here from Washington. Rutgers needs to be better. Just point blank. It's a tough game for Rutgers. You do need to consider the offense and how good the offense of Washington is and how they are at home, but still, I mean, this is even an issue now after the bye week. So Rutgers got to fix this defense if they have any hope of a bowl game so far this season. Next up, Nebraska, Maryland, and holy cow, this one was this was a crazy one. I mean, all the twists and turns, the kick return that Nebraska had, which was awesome, the pick six that Dylan Raiola have, and then the comeback in the fourth quarter again happening to Maryland. Oh boy, yeah, I think this is the questionable one for Maryland. Could have been concerning for them, especially with losing the game in the fourth quarter, essentially again. But I'm gonna go with questionable for Maryland. But overall, if you're a Maryland fan, your heart's kind of taken out again after this one because you had this game won. You scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter and everything was looking good, right? It was 31-24. You were thinking, okay, we just hold them off. Defense can hold them off. But even Emmett Johnson had a day, 21 rushes for 176 yards, no touchdowns. Those touchdowns went to Dylan Raiola, who was 20 of 29, 260 yards, 4 touchdown passes. But overall, the 3 interceptions on the day also brought that that back for Dylan Raiola as well. But, credit to him. He never quit. He never faltered. He never was somebody that got too down on himself. It sounds like in the post-game interviews that Dylan Raiola and Dana Holgorsen really have a good relationship, and Dana Holgorsen was doing a great job of helping him kind of gain his confidence back after the pick six and after the situation. So, it was like a 67-yard pick six, I think it was, but overall, just great stuff here from Nebraska. These are not games that Nebraska normally wins, and I almost put Nebraska an elite for that reason. Right, is that Nebraska didn't used to win these games. And Matt Rule said it afterward. He said, this is who we are now. It's no longer that. We've won enough close games this season. It's no longer that. Now, I just hope that continues. Then the next close game they lose, it might, bite them that he said that. But I think this is a different Nebraska team. I think this is a Nebraska team that I can trust more. And I really, really like the fortitude of this team being down going into the fourth quarter and for them to come back, score 10 points, hold Maryland to 0 points in the fourth quarter, and really only giving them 2 possessions. Maryland had the ball in the fourth quarter. They punted, and then they had the ball again, and there was turnover on downs. Nebraska in the fourth quarter, 12-play, 83-yard drive, gave you a field goal, gave you the confidence there, right, to be able to come back, and then you have a 7-play, 81-yard drive. You follow that up with a touchdown. Bravo to Nebraska. Was this the best game Nebraska's ever played? No. You had 3 interceptions, yada, yada. You gave up more yards than you wanted to Malik Washington, definitely there. But this was a game of resilience. This was a game of changing the narrative of this program. And although it's not elite, I'd say it's pretty daggone close to elite for Nebraska in this one, especially going on the road and beating this Maryland team who, yes, they did lose to Washington last week, but still a very good win for Nebraska in this one. If they didn't have the turnovers, I think I probably would put them elite, but that's also kind of what gives it a little bit of the shine, right? Is they were able to come back from that kind of adversity and what they did wrong. And I think that's a really good quality of this Matt Rule team that he has right now. Great stuff. Great stuff from them. Maryland, on the other hand, you lose another one late. It's questionable for me. It's not quite concerning yet, but definitely teetering on that concerning part there, right? I mean, this is a young team, so I think that's probably the reason why it's not concerning, because you kind of have years to be able to improve and advance. I felt like Malik Washington was really good in this game. He only had 249 yards, 27 of 37 and a touchdown, but I really liked him in this game. Nolan Ray ran the ball well, over 5 yards per carry, 11 of 62, and then Williams, he was 10 of 36. Excuse me, they both had a touchdown. Maryland to be able to run the ball, I think that's what kind of keeps them out of the concerning category for me. Their ability to run the ball in this game, but definitely need to be able to finish out games. You see these kind of issues with young teams. It's not uncommon. But Mike Locksley, he was kind of talking about it afterward. He was saying he feels like this team is different. He feels like I don't have the exact quote, but basically, he was very positive about this team, and I did feel positive about this Maryland team coming out of this one. Just not in the fourth quarter, and so that's something they need to get straightened up. We'll see if Maryland can go on the road and win at UCLA here next week. That'll be a big game for them to be able to try and do that. Last one next. It is Minnesota winning 27-20 over Purdue, and this was an interesting one because at one point I was gonna give Minnesota the concerning for what I saw, and and Purdue the satisfied, and then Minnesota started coming back, and I thought, okay, well I'm gonna put Minnesota in the questionable, but the satisfied for Purdue, right? Because Purdue goes to Minnesota and they have over 450 yards in this game. Ryan Brown did a great job. Devin Mockabee, Malachi Singleton, he had a touchdown run in this game. Ryan Brown had a touchdown run in this game. The offense was really clicking for him, but you had 9 penalties in this game. You were 3 of 5 going into the red zone in this game. You had 4 turnovers. Excuse me, you had 4 turnovers. And then Minnesota only capitalized on half of those. They had 10 points off 4 turnovers in this game. Very, very tough game for Purdue. And I thought about putting them in the satisfied category, but I don't think that's where this fan base is at. I think this fan base is ready to start winning these types of games. So I put them in the questionable. Minnesota is probably the least satisfactory of all of these, but at the same time, this is a Minnesota team that had their backs against the wall in the fourth quarter. Drake Lindsey goes down, drives the field, gets them a touchdown, and then you have the interception return for a touchdown by Coy Parrish, coming off the interception to Ryan Brown. So I got to give them satisfactory, because if you're a fan, you're looking at that and saying, we came back, we won, the resilience, right? But there's definitely some concern there for how the game went a little bit. But we'll push that concern to the back burner, because this is another win for Minnesota. They needed to kind of keep their confidence up, keep going, keep being able to succeed in this season. And I still think Minnesota has a good chance at 6, 7, 8 wins possibly this season. We'll see if they can get there. Good game by Minnesota. Purdue, I think Purdue's going to get one of these games at some point. It just, which one are they going to get? It'll be interesting to see. So those are the performance tiers for week 7 in the Big Ten. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, please do share those. Like, subscribe, hype up the video on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating and review on the podcast platform of your choice. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.